So about a month ago, I got the Windone E2, which is an electric bike with a retro moto design. And since then, I've been doing extensive testing on this bike to test its durability, battery life, and value. I did make another video that goes over the bike and takes a closer look at the specifications and build of the E2, which I've left a link in the video description. But if you don't need an extensive overview of these details, here's a quick rundown. The E2 is a Class 3 electric bike that comes with 20-inch fat tire wheels with a 4-inch width, a 7-speed drivetrain, hydraulic disc brakes, a 500-watt brushless rear hub motor that provides about 85 Nm of torque, and a 48-volt, 13-amp-hour lithium-ion battery that Windone says is good for 46 miles of pedal assist and 28 miles of pure electric throttle range.
Okay, we're doing the Hillclimb Test using only the throttle on a 14% gradient. Right now, it's really not too steep. It's probably maybe 10% right now. We're getting to the steeper part. The bike's definitely starting to struggle now. We're down to 11.5 miles per hour. We're now at the steepest part of the hill, holding at 11.5. 14% gradient, going down to 10.5. It's still climbing though. 10 miles per hour. You definitely want to pedal up a hill like this, but throttle does go up it, and we are done. Test successful.
So the E2 was able to climb up a 14 to 15% gradient using only the throttle at about 10 to 11 miles per hour. But let's see how it does with pedal assist on an 18 to 20% gradient.
Okay, here we go. Now we're doing the Hillclimb Test using pedaling. And this is the steepest hill in the town I live. It's 18 to 20%. Here we go. Gonna downshift a little bit. Since this is a retro style, moto style e-bike, it's a very low seating position. But we are powering up this hill, doing 12 miles an hour. We're in the middle gear, gear 4. Power level 5. Easy peasy. 11.5 miles per hour. Downshift one more. Nice. No throttle used. And that was not that bad. So we can confirm that the Windone E2 will at least go up a 20% grade pretty easily.
So as you can tell, the E2 did pretty decent on the throttle only hill climb, but it did really good when it climbed to 20% gradient with pedal assist. The bike will go up a 10% gradient fairly easily, but once it gets steeper, I do recommend using pedal assist. Next, I want to test acceleration using only the throttle. With this bike being at home using only the throttle, I want to check to see how long it would take it to the top speed of 28 miles per hour. So let's see how it went.
Here we go, testing acceleration from 0 to the top speed of 28 miles per hour using only the throttle. Ready, and go. 10, 15, 20, 25, 28.
So as you can tell, the E2 did a really good job in the acceleration. It took 3.6 seconds to get to 10 miles per hour, 4.8 seconds to get to 15 miles per hour, 7.2 to go to 20 miles per hour, 11.2 seconds to 25 miles per hour, and 15.4 seconds to the top speed of 28 miles per hour. And I gotta say, that considering the weight of this bike, and its only 500-watt motor, it accelerates much better than I expected. Next, I want to test out the braking for the E2. For this test, I tested the bike from 2 different speeds. First was from 15 miles per hour, which the E2 did in a very impressive 11.5 feet. Next, I stopped the E2 from its top speed of 28 miles per hour, which it did in 30.5 feet. Which is mostly due to locking up the brakes. So now that I tested acceleration, braking, and hill climbing ability, I want to test out the E2 what I consider the most important part of a bike, and that's the ride comfort. So like I mentioned before, I've been testing this bike out for about a month or so, and I've put a decent amount of miles on it. I've done small 10-minute rides, and longer rides where I've been on the saddle for more than an hour. And during these rides, I use mostly the throttle only, due to the fact this style of bike sits and feels like a dirt bike, so it isn't the most efficient pedaling bike. But while using the throttle, it is insanely fun. The bike feels like a dirt bike, and also has the comfort of a dirt bike, meaning that it is really comfortable for shorter rides. But I did notice that after about an hour or so, my butt did start to hurt a little, mostly due to the seat being on the narrower side. But this really isn't that big of a deal, since this bike has been getting between 22 to 25 miles per charge using only the throttle. So by the time that my butt started hurting, the battery was already getting low. And something else to keep in mind regarding the range is that I wasn't riding the bike slowly, and I was using full throttle most of the time. So I do think that 28 miles is possible under the right conditions and depending on how much throttle you actually use. But I did speak to Windone, and they do plan on selling the battery separately in the future so you can double your range, with the anticipated price being somewhere between $300 and $400. I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised by the E2. I know that these bikes are flawed when it comes to pedaling, and they're intended to be used with the throttles only. And while I do understand why this would bother some people, it doesn't bother me at all. And I actually like it because it reminds me of having a fun little motorcycle that you can ride around without having to worry about insurance or having a license. And I've ridden a lot of bikes on this channel, everything from road bikes, mini e-bikes, folding e-bikes, and even prototype carbon fiber electric mountain bikes. And I can say without hesitation that the E2 is one of the best values I've ever seen for a retro moto style e-bike. It's comfortable, well made, has a solid build, good range, really good suspension, and killer looks. And the best part is, at the time of this recording, the E2 is only $900, which is an absolute steal for a bike like this. And even though I adore this bike, there is one thing that I would change, and that's the drivetrain. And I just wish I had a single speed instead of the 7-speed. Now, in order to clarify myself what I mean, there's nothing wrong with the 7-speed drivetrain on the E2. It shifts smooth and works extremely well. But the reality is, with a bike like this, 90% of the time, people are going to be using only the throttle, and this bike has enough power to only be a single speed when you do need to pedal. And the added bonus of the single speed is less complexity and no chain slap. But even I'll admit that this isn't really that important, and I might be in the minority wishing it was a single speed. And honestly, it doesn't change my opinion on how great this bike actually is, and I think it's an absolute steal for $900. But if you have any questions or have an E2 yourself and want to share your experience, please leave them in the comment section below. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and have a great one.